Welcome to 5DT Podcast. My name is Ama, and this is our first guest, Beverly Castaneda. She is an Indigenous woman from what we call Colorado, and Spirit gave her the name from the Mountains Woman. She's a dear friend, sister, and community member who does a lot of work with healing, the ancestral healing, with plants, with people, and with the earth. And just a pleasure to have you today.
Hi, Alma. Thank you for inviting me to be here and to be a guest on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here with you and see how this organically moves because we have this really beautiful sister relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the first time we're having a conversation like this on Zoom. So it's new, but it felt important to create a space for a broader audience to really step in to this platform and conversations like this, because all of us are moving through these times together. You know, we have storms that are like, oh, the biggest storms we've ever had, causing changes in communities. We have eclipses and global tensions, economic pressures, and there's a lot of people in our communities that are moving through a lot of intensity. And I wanted to really make space and put it out there on YouTube so that we could share our story and how it is that we're moving through these times, so that maybe others who don't have in-person community can relate and connect.
Well, thank you for opening up sacred space and doing this. And I'm really grateful and honored to have the relationship that I have with you. And one of the things that I wanted to share, which is really enriched in my life as having you as a sister and also sometimes with the elder medicine, is when you're in space with someone or you're holding space with someone, when you don't feel judged and you can just express how you're feeling, then for me, I feel like we connect in the oneness that is created in the medicine that's asking us to be vulnerable and innocent in that space. So I feel like you're one of the sisters that I get to share that with. And I'm happy that we're doing this together so that people can get a example of what that might look like in their life.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel that as well, that it's always been a joy, you know, to share communication and space with you. And it's just easy, you know, and it always brings me a smile and feel warm here in my heart, you know. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more. And you were the first person that I thought of to start with this, because you know you have done so much work and been devoted to this path. And one of the things that we talked about was your recent trip in Nepal, and how you were experiencing the devotion of the people there. And I connected with that story because in my practice, personal practice, I've been giving myself the invitation to see the practice as a devotion instead of a discipline, because the word discipline has more of a negative connotation, and it's more like a punishment, or like, gosh, I have to do this. It's like, wait a second, I get to do this. I get to be devoted to this. And as you were sharing about your trip in Nepal and talking about the devotion that people have there, I felt that pretty strongly.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that up too, sister, because here we're taught that it's hard work. And if we're in our practice, in our prayer, in our connection, people could look at it as obsessive or I'm addicted to it. And being in Nepal, I got to witness the beauty of the gentleness, the nourishing, the devotion with the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the children who have malas who go around the stupas praying. It's the first thing that they do. And instead of getting ready for work, and I watched and observed the beauty in this. And there was no rush. There was no competition. There was the Hindu and the Buddhists. I'm sorry, the Hindu and the Tibetans working together, going around the stupa. And to see that kind of devotion and in harmony with different religion and beliefs, it did something to the core of my heart. And in that space too, I'm really not expressing the fullness of it because what I've learned by being in Nepal, in Kathmandu, is that you have to live it. It has to be lived in you, and we're all connected to that.
That's so beautiful. It's like the saying that we have here, like walking your talk. And to begin to try to express it, you might uncover a layer, but to know it is different.
Yes, and because it, for the work that I do, it's not to be owned. It's to be expressed in the presence of the self, or expressed in the no self. And that means full presence. And that could be intimidating. And for my experience in my life, and for the things that I had experienced, especially in my childhood, to be fully present was harmful because of the experience that I had in my family dynamic. And now I can say that differently because of all the inner work that I've done with that, with them, with the oneness of that. So, and I'm still in the beginning of the teachings of what that looks like for me. And I want to take my time. I'm not in a rush. And this allows me to connect to the authenticity of who I am. And this means that I get to see my own speciality in that, but not as, oh, look at me, how great I am. But no, this is my medicine, and this nurtures and loves me. And what do I do with this that'll help be, you know, be wholesome in our communities? And as good as it gets is just sharing.
Mm. I want to pull back to something that you had said in your last statement, and that you were talking about how the Tibetans and the Nepali people, there were two different spiritualities there. Is that what you had said? And they coexist peacefully.
It's the Hindu and the Tibetans. So they coexist together, and they walk together around the stupas and pray in each other's temples, and in the teachings that is there. So I know that there's 4 different teachings, and I'm still learning. And yeah, we were at a temple in Nepal, and it was a Hindu temple, but everyone was around with their malas praying and doing the koras, and just respectfully, you know, moving together, moving along together. And I could see from an outside perspective that there were different ways that people moved, and nobody was being shamed for that. And I love the beauty of that, because the prayer is the people themselves. When there is no separation in identity, we just are moving together in our prayer. And there's a lot to be said in that, especially here in the United States, on how, you know, I'm still doing the inner work on uniting that which I separated myself from it. But again, I'm learning not to talk about separation, and looking more at the whole picture of what's taking place from the scope where I'm at in my teachings. And this means that it'll change later. Like I had told you earlier, that there was something that happened in my life that I realized my story changed. I was like, whoa, and it happened today. And yeah, and I want to be open to that, because I don't ever want to have a fixed answer on things, because then it gives me the flexibility and the adaptability to move and flow, ebb and flow in that space.
That's one thing that my aunt says. Uh, be careful of the story you tell yourself. Be careful of the stories that you tell about yourself or about situations in life. You know, our story can change at any time. Our perspective can change at any time. And I really love that. And I love what you're saying about how there's coexistence and sharing even a temple space. So we could take some advice on that, because here we have all these different factions of, like, even just with Christianity and tribes, and well, we only pray this way and we only do it like this, and kind of like a judgment. Oh well, that's wrong because it's not the way we do it, you know. And I've heard and seen a lot of that through many different types of spirituality or religion here. Even in communities of color and Christianity and Catholicism, different forms of it, we're all kind of like looking across at each other going, you know, like, why? Why do we do that? You know, what's the point? And we're all praying, we're all walking each other home, we're all trying to make a way in this life, you know, hopefully for the next 7 generations, leave a good world for our children. Don't we all want the same thing? Why are we looking at each other like that?
Mhm. Yeah, so that's true because there's no judgment. That's one of the biggest things. And they don't have an attachment to how a person prays and to what the devotion looks like. It just is. And that's the beautiful harmony of it. And that's what I really enjoyed observing. And then, like, also, where do I fit in this? And, once I let go of my judgment, then it didn't matter because the beauty of it was just happening naturally. And to me, that was the best medicine that I could receive in that space, was to just move with the harmony and the flow of that.
Hmm. So I'm curious, what was the perspective that you had that changed today?
So I was sharing with a friend today, I was sharing my story about part of when I got sober and what happened. And the experience that I had was when I first got sober. Um, I went to court. I was court ordered and I got sober for 6 months. I was actually supposed to be on probation for a whole year, but the judge seen that I was doing so well that he only gave me 6 months. And I had a conversation in my head. Oh, well, then I'm going to go get high. And I heard, no, don't go get high. I need you to do something. And I said, I got this. My ego, I got this. I'll be fine. And I heard in my head, I'm going to make this hard for you if you go back to getting high. And what I learned about that is when you take full accountability for who you are in your life, I realized when I was saying the story again that that was me talking to myself. I'm the one who punished me for another 5 years. That which created us did not, because I'm the creator of my life. So then oh, that was me who created myself, or going back to getting high, which I spent another 5 years getting high until I was ready to take my life. And then I heard, now you're ready. So there are many different parts of ourselves that unites. And to me, I won't put a label on it, but I take accountability and responsibility that that was me who was talking to me in that space with the creator that's created all of this. And that's the oneness that I'm talking about that unites us, to where when we take full accountability for ourselves, we can see, wait a minute, I don't have to punish myself. I'm not going to punish myself, and I don't have to suffer anymore, because there's something that happened in our minds, and we have to be watchful and be accountable what we put in our brains and how we're speaking our medicine in existence, right? That we're not saying, I'm going to punish myself for not getting sober and following my path. No, there were teachings and lessons that I had to go through in that space. But I do know this now, that I will not punish myself for the things that I feel like I should be doing. Because in that alignment, if I'm the one who's punishing myself, then I'm going to stop it. Because I want to be my own best friend. I want to be the one that loves me first when I wake up first thing in the morning. I want to be the one to say, Beverly, you're doing such a great job. And that if I do have these bad thoughts that I feel like I have to suffer, that I want to be the one inside of me that says, no, Beverly, you don't have to do that. Because you show up in the best that you can with what you have every day, learning and letting go, surrendering and walking your path. Even if I fall and stumble, but I'm not going to tell myself I'm going to punish myself because I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. No, there's a natural form to us. If you allow yourself to walk in that form, it just reveals itself. And that's what happened to me when I went in Nepal. It helped me to stand in my leadership in that space, that I really don't have to know what I'm doing, but if I listen to the inner guidance that loves, it'll show me.
Hmm, that's so beautiful. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many teachings of the ways of compassion, aren't there? Of like forgiveness and having compassion with ourselves. And um, one of the things that's kind of a thread that I want to pull through here is in the work that I've done since a very, 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 very little age was mediumship and intuitive communication with spirit. I was born that way. It just was there. And through my experience with this and being in situations where just organically I would experience someone crossing the threshold and then communicating with them, or having dreams about it or having visions about it during the day even. And one thing seemed to be a trend that's interesting that came through recently into my mind of like, you know what? Maybe a lot of people don't think about this. I should talk about this at some point. So here we are. That, you know, when we pass, when we cross the threshold, you know, first of all, we're not human physical beings. Like we're here in this physical having an experience. And some people say, oh, well, I am the spirit in this body. But really, this body is a dream that the spirit is having. And when we exit the body and we travel to the place beyond time, you know, we go to the light. In indigenous tradition, this is the sun. You know, the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the sun. We go there, we counsel, you know, and we decide what we're going to do. And we have the life review. As some people say, I saw my life flashing before my eyes, right? And in that place where that life review happens, oftentimes they just feel love. Even at the things where they're like, oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, no. Like they just feel love surrounding them. You know, like there's no judgment there. That compassion, that forgiveness that's there. And a part two response to this is we have work to do on the other side. And oftentimes, the work we choose to do is to go through and give ourselves messages along the way through time at different ages from the other side, saying, okay, I see how this all led to where it led to. Here's where I can give the message of love to myself, give that encouragement to myself, you know, give that little synchronicity to stay centered and just keep going, you know, don't give up. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is. And that's the phenomenal, that's the magic, that's the mystics, that's the mystery. It 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 wants to be created in so many different ways because in itself, there's only one. In the teachings that I walk with, there's only one that is having this experience through all of us and created Amma and created Beverly in this image of it. And I feel, you know, there has been a lot of teachings that I have sat and listened and watched and observed. And I feel I like listening to all the stories too, by the way, and listening to each and every one's experiences. And sometimes they resonate and sometimes they don't. But what I love is when I don't have an opinion about what's being said, and I can observe the oneness on how it created everything, all of this, all at the same time. I like to look at it from that space, and also too that everything is energy, and this material really doesn't exist, but it exists in the form where we are here as a human. And sometimes I think about how we jump from different timelines. Like, how is that possible? And I've had things in my life where I wasn't you know, my experience was I was using drugs, and I looked over and I seen myself sitting there, and scared me, but it was me in the future of what I would look like when I became a full addict, you know, full-fledged addict. And so I believe that there are different timelines that are here when we pay attention, when we don't make excuses, or when we don't say it's something else. There is something to be said about when we have no fear and we're in the presence of that which creates, and how when we don't have a perspective and when we don't have a perception and we don't have an opinion, what does that look like? I'm looking at those right now so that I don't have an attachment to how things work out. That's what I'm moving through right now. And that's what I learned by being in Nepal. And I could feel it kind of still move this way and that way, and there's a new freedom in that. I'm noticing that when I have an attachment, my shoulders are getting tight, like my body is speaking to me more clearly. And it is my point of connection. It is my point of connection now. And I'm doing things for my body first instead of for what I want. That has totally changed how I move. And as far as like what happens to us after we leave, I don't feel like we leave like people think we leave. I feel like it's this vastness of it. And we sometimes get called to go different places at different times, because look at how many times everything is turning into something else. And I don't believe death and rebirth is where we go. That doesn't feel like that's where we go. I feel like there's this consciousness of pool that's asking for purity. It's asking for cleansing and purification. And I had a thought of this the other day. What if consciousness itself said, I'm going to explore and be everything and anything, all of it, all at once. And then it said, whoa, like, okay, it just keeps creating mass projections of things. And now it wants to go back to the sense of purity that it was in the oneness. Because if it's feeling everything that we are all going through, people are all over the world are saying, we don't want to suffer anymore. And I'm not going to perpetuate more violence. I'm not going to perpetuate more anger. I want to know why I came here, and I want to know the purity of who I am, even though we are always pure. But something happens when we clear out all the junk in our mind and we sit with that. What happens when we're not taking things personal? What happens when we don't have an opinion? What happens when we don't have a perspective? What happens when we don't say anything at all? I'm more interested in those spaces, because then the energy flows differently in the oneness of all.
Mm.
I know I went off in a little tangent, but like that's kind of like what I've been feeling and
Mm-hmm.
what I've been observing in myself.
Mm-hmm. That's really
So
beautiful. That's you know, you brought in like two really interesting perspectives of like the on the one side, and of course it's a spectrum, it's all connected. It's not that they're different. But it feels like there's these two ideas of being in the oneness and observing, and then the manifestation, you know, which is having an idea about, I'm curious to see what this does, you know, try to create that. Or maybe this experience would be something that I want to do. Okay, I'm going to pray for this, or I'm going to speak this into existence, you know, and that creates a ripple. And then something comes from that, and then something else, you know. What's your relationship with being in the oneness and uh, manifestation?
so accountability is very, it's like taking accountability for my life has really helped the manifestation, but it's also looking at the mere reflection of what's being brought to me in my life, and looking at it from an observation that I'm not judging what I'm seeing or what's being brought to me, and that I know exactly what needs to be done. So it's seeing past the suffering and the pain and seeing what really harmonizes this situation that's in front of me. I'm looking at that kind of manifestation, because the manifestation that I'm working with now, because I don't have an attachment to what it looks like, they're showing me how I can bring harmony, unity, healing, and balance in the space when it's being presented. Because I
Mm.
know that I could judge, and I know that I could have my own perspective. I know that I can have my own perception, and that'll cause an opinion in the space. So looking at it from the perspective, I mean, looking at it from the observation of, this is what's inside of me, and this is asking for healing, balance, and forgiveness. That's how I've been looking at my manifestation. It's totally changed, which means that I'm doing what they're asking me to do, and I'm not worried about money or if I'm going to have enough spiritual growth. This is what they're asking with all the tools that they've helped me with: forgiveness, healing, harmony, and balance. Do I want to continue to perpetuate more anger, violence, and more hate? No. They're asking me to bring in these other tools when there's chaos in front of me, so that that manifestation itself gets healed beyond the human understanding. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we've all been in a trap of, when I see people getting upset, oh, I'm going to add my opinion to that, or I'm going to start gossiping about that, or I'm going to say something about that. Instead, just someone go, you know what, I'm going to ask for healing. I'm going to ask for forgiveness for everything that's taking place there. I'm going to ask for love. I'm going to ask, if there's someone who's hurting in that space, I want to ask that they receive that love. Can you imagine how the medicine would change if we were around each other in that space like that? Even though I'm adding love and I'm adding blessings and I'm adding prayer, it's still a form of perspective. It's still a form of perception. It's still a form of opinion. But I'd rather be there doing that because that's what they're asking me to do and see how things start to change and manifest. And that's kind of like where I'm at, Amma. And I don't have an answer for why that is, except for I'm not to perpetuate more violence and more anger and more hate and more frustration and more opinion on things in that direction. And yeah, that helps my shoulders to feel better. I don't have to like so I
Mm.
don't know if that's the exact answer you were looking for when you were talking about manifestation. Because that in itself has its own richness. It has its own value beyond the human need and want. Do you see what I'm saying? So, because it's all energy. And a lot of people say when you manifest, it's about really being in harmony and unity with infinity. And that's what they're asking me to be in harmony and unity with when I'm with the people. So,
Mm.
but I have to see that chaos inside myself and do my inner work to know how to hold that for myself so that when I'm in the space, I know that that's a reflection of me and it's asking for healing and harmony in that space as well. Everything is a
Mhm.
reflection of who we are. So, yeah. Did you need any
Mhm.
more clarification for that or?
No, that was wonderful. And it's just beautiful to think about how we could use that gift of manifestation to create harmony. You know, we can, and imagine if everyone in the world did that, it would be a different place. And that's one of the things actually that my grandma, I really love her so much. Her name's Unchikaya, and she's a really, really beautiful Ogla Lakota woman. And she has taught me so many things. And one of the things that's easiest to remember is how she talked about free will, and that it was important to remember that free will doesn't mean doing what you want, whenever you want, however you want. It's doing what enlivens your heart with respect to those around you. And that's what that reminds me of. You're creating in harmony, you're adding harmony. Because if everyone's just walking around doing whatever they want without consideration for like the environment, without consideration for other people, the plants, the next generations to come, we're not really acting in harmony there. And so is that true free will? Because if you're considering the free will of the whole being, we would be acting in respect to each other. Because when we don't, that's where sickness begins. It's where we have separation and we get trouble, imbalance. And it's just reminding me of that.
Feel like thank you, Amma, for sharing that and much respect to your grandmother, Uchi. Much respect to her. And I want to say thank you to her because she did such a beautiful um when she was here, she just loved you beautifully. And she's still here, right? She's still here. She loves you beautifully. And I just want to thank her for that because you walk with the grandmother energy and you're very young, but you have this deep, profound understanding that, it's about sharing the knowledge and wisdom. And in some areas, it has something to do with age, and in some areas, it doesn't. But the knowledge gets handed down to someone who's already doing the work, and she's seen that in you, and your way of life led you to her. So that in itself worked out harmoniously, and you walk with reverence and respect with the teachings, and you don't ever try to force it down anybody. And I feel like that's what I really loved and admire about you, especially when I first met you with my big old ego that I have and that I have to keep in check. Um, is that my ears got bigger when you talked. And I was like, what is she saying over there? Like, she's younger than me. And I also grew up with the mentality of when you're younger, it's the elders, right? The elders have the knowledge and wisdom. And when you spoke, something inside me felt it. So, and for my ears to get big, because my ears are really tiny, joke, no. I went to you and I was like, what's going on? And I knew I had to be quiet to really hear what you were saying. And then I felt it in my being. So that is the authenticity that I feel with you when you talk. And also having to learn to laugh at myself. I learned, you know, in my friendship with you, is I had to learn to laugh at myself and not be so serious, right? So I thank you for helping me in that area, because it's
Mm.
when we can laugh at ourselves. And when people are laughing at us, laugh with them so that we're all laughing together. And laughter is good medicine, you know? Um, so because, you know, we can continue to be hard and, you know, create more hardness and go in that direction, or we can continue to learn how to trust our own inner hearts and guidance. And that's what I love about, you know, connecting to my own inner light, is that I get to connect with that and learn how to trust that which gives me life and that which we all have in us. I'm not saying, you know, that I'm the only one, because I won't ever say that. But for me, I felt like because the segregation and separated at such a young age, that I'm now reconnecting with that deepest parts of myself. And I get to feel vulnerability and innocence and purity in a new way.
Mm.
And I want to shout out to anyone who feels like there is no purity in them, that that never goes away. There's a
Hmm.
purity in mind, in our consciousness, yes, and that we have to work for that. But then there's a responsibility of what we put in it. So then that means pay attention. Like when you're watching something, pay attention to how the energy is moving inside of you. If you're feeling something move inside of you and you didn't give it permission and you're like, wait, what's going on? Check in with yourself. Like, oh, I'm listening to this. Stop listening to it. Then clear your energy immediately. Like, clear it. We have the ability to do so many different things, but it's checking in with ourselves, having that relationship with the creator inside of us. That's what's going to protect us, love us, and teach us that, you know, we have a responsibility to the our ecosystem inside of us. Like and that's why I love being outside, you know. That's why we love
Mm.
indigenous work and our indigenous love that we have for our beautiful Mother Earth. And I'm now starting to call Earth and not identifying it as any gender, which is okay too. And then sometimes, you know, I identify it as a gender sometimes. It just depends where I'm at in the teachings that I'm walking with, you know.
Mm.
So, but what if that which created everything doesn't want to identify with anything? And then that would be that it's erasing itself completely. And I had that thought the other day. Whoa, that that's something else. Like to unite the nation of people to where we don't see color, race, or gender, but to unite the people so that we're stronger together for what we need to stand up together. Like that in itself is powerful. We
Mm.
either unite together in harmony or we unite in other ways and forms, shapes and forms. And we're doing that too. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. For the work that I particularly do, it is to unite for harmony and unity. And I have organized chaos in me too. So, you know, it's there. Yeah. Thank
Mm.
you for beautiful time to get together and have this conversation. You know, may you continue to flourish in your soul and in your presence, in your spirit, in your presence. May your family be blessed. Continue to have all and everything that you want and need, because everything has been given to all of us. And when we
Mm.
remember that, we walk with our power, we walk with our values differently. And yeah, we want to be respectful and have responsibility to how we treat that which is giving us life always. Here first.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you were saying that. I was like, I don't know. I like calling her mama though.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay too.
I like that she's my mama.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, most definitely, yes.
Thank you for what you shared too. You know, I'm always learning, and I was really lucky, you know, to have beautiful elders that taught me a lot, and um, had a pretty tough upbringing, and learned a lot the hard way. Uh, and a lot of us know that walk. Those of us with thicker skulls need to learn
Yep.
things the hard way first. That was me, you know, and definitely it was tough, and just listen to spirit. And gosh, meeting my grandmother, because she's my adopted grandmother, and we call it Honka. you know, that's the adoption. And when she saw me, you know, she kind of like side eye. She give me the side eye. I don't know if you definitely have met like a stern, strong grandmother energy. Like it's no joke when they look at you that way.
Mhm.
That was new to
Yes, I
me, and I could just feel her scanning me, and I was just like, I felt
have.
totally naked. And as someone who's like um, energy sensitive, you can feel when someone is like piercing through you with X-ray vision, like masterful telepathy, like reading you.
Hmm.
Like I was like,
Where can I hide?
get me a towel, you know, like it was like that. And anyway, we had just been in ceremony, and I won't say too much to keep it sacred, but we were in ceremony. And hold on, I have to pause this for 1 second. My son heard me laughing and wanted to come in.
Oh.
Yeah, but we'll laugh more after this. But anyways, we were in a ceremony, and we were singing a song, and I had never sang that song or heard that song in my memory in this lifetime before. And the words came out of my mouth, and I was seeing something, you know, and I'm going to keep it to myself what I was seeing, but it involved a spider. And um, afterwards, we were sitting at the table, you know, after ceremony, we sit together and we eat, break bread, we come back, you know, and process. And she was just looking at me, you know, like, oh my God, I just want to eat the soup in peace. It feels so uncomfortable. And I didn't know anybody there. It was my first time. And she finally spoke up, and everyone was talking at the table. When she spoke, everyone went silent. Silent. She said, "Where did you learn that song?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know that song." She's like, "Huh." And then she went, "What did you see when we were singing that song?" And I was like, "Uh, I don't know. I don't usually talk about that stuff because up to that point, I was 17. Up until that point, I was told to keep silent, you know, that telling the wrong people might result in something not good, you know. And so this would have been the first time that I spoke my vision in a group setting. And
Mm.
I was like, "Ah, it's kind of strange." And she goes, "Try me, honey." You're safe here. You can speak.
Oh.
And I was like, "Okay, well, I saw this and this, and when we sang this, I saw this and the spider." Da, da, da. She goes, "That's what the song's about." And I was like,
Mm.
"Wait, really? Are you serious?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna teach you." I was like, "Teach me? What are you gonna do?" I'm scared. You know? And so that was my first experience initiation with her. And so when I share the things I've learned from her, you know, I share it in a way that it's helped me heal. It's helped me to live. It's, I don't know where I'd be, you know, without her teachings. And, you know, of course, Dekshi, you know, Uncle Lauren, her and him really taught me a lot and saved my life, really. So when people speak like that, it's you feel the authenticity, and it's because it's real, and we mean it. One time, you know, we were in one of those spaces, and somebody was like, "Man, how do you do that?" She's like, "I don't know. I just really mean it." you know, and like when you speak, when you're speaking about your experience of how you come through trauma and you've healed and gotten sober, like your path has been so powerful and helping people to come to their sobriety or to heal, to peel back one layer at a time in a safe space, you know. Being able to share that experience and say, I've been there, I see you, I'm here. People feel that and are able to heal in a different way than if someone was just trying to do that on their own, you know. And that's not to say people can't heal on their own, but we've evolved through eons in community for a reason. You know, we are a part of an ecosystem, like you talked about our biome. We're part of an ecosystem, and you know, a lot of people forget that like we are a part of nature. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go connect with nature. It's like, wait a second, but you are nature. All of us, you know, and so we have that connection to everything and that oneness that you talk about. So I just wanted to share that, you know, because um it's just funny how things come together sometimes. I laugh because it's hilarious. And you know, to the people who um might not understand, you know, it's okay. There's things that happen that we don't understand and we laugh, and that's okay.
Oh, true, yes. And I love the fact that you're talking about there's a stare, like the grandmother stare. And I have to say that I've also felt that from you when, I would be sitting and talking to you about certain things that were going on in my life, the beginning stages of, learning the teachings that you walk with, the Star Alter Lakota teachings. And when someone holds that space with such integrity and authenticity, it does make people feel uncomfortable. I have been on both sides of that. And the reason how I know is because that's the transformation that takes place. When someone holds that space, that the energy itself starts to change. And we may not know it, how to connect directly to that. But when we're in that space, if we could just, all right, there's something inside of me that is saying that I need to be fully present with this. And I need to acknowledge that I'm not fully speaking my truth. And now somebody sees me and now I can. Something inside of us urges us to speak. And you've held that space for me. I just want to acknowledge that. And that's one of the things that I get to do holding space for people is that I don't have to try to prove anything to anyone. I just have to be myself, and that the medicine does exactly what it needs to do because it's there. It's providing the medicine itself because everything is energy. And when that energy is present, it just does what it needs to do.
Mhm.
Especially that's why our intention and our prayer is so important when we're holding sacred space, opening sacred space, and asking for permission. Like
Mhm.
all that's taking place above, in the higher realms and the higher vibration of that. So that's why when people don't do the inner work, you can tell. No judgment, but you could just tell. You can tell how they show up. I'm over here. I'm getting hungry. Because they're not able to hold the space. And I know to myself that I've had to be really diligent, like I have to be right now when I'm talking to be more present with you. Because I was thinking about my food, that what I wanted to eat, because Rob just came in. And also like, holding space here with you. And that's one of the things that I have to learn about myself is that when I'm fully present, something beautiful happens for me because then I'm in the fullness of that. And then when I'm in the fullness of things, my attention and my focus changes. And then I can be with the words that I'm speaking and saying so that the words are coming out with more clarity and they're more clear and they're more precise. And I
Mm.
had to learn that something inside of me didn't want to be fully present because there was pain in my body. So now that the medicine gets to change,
Mm.
I've been with that pain that no longer sits and resides, but it's still flushing out of me. And I openly admit that still sometimes some pain surfaces only because it's asking me to be with it so it can leave. And so that the purity of who I truly am and the authenticity of who I am just surfaces and it's there. And that's as good as it gets for me because then I know my focus and my attention is very clear. And I want that for myself and for the people that I interact with and the people that I hold space. But I had to know the opposite side of that in order to really come and correct it or just be with that. And so that when I'm holding space like that and people are stepping into that position, like we both know, we understand it detail for detail. And that's what makes the medicine so great, is because we have no shame, no blame, and no guilt. Just share.
Mm-hmm.
That's the primo medicine, because then everybody can help each other move in the direction that they need to, or whatever clicks in their consciousness, it gets revealed to them. So we really don't have to work that hard anymore.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time and um, for your story, for part one of your story. Hopefully, we'll have
Barbara.
you back at some time on 5DT where you can tune in and level up by listening to Beverly Castaneda again.
And Amma, listen to Amma. Thank you.
And yeah, I hope you enjoy your dinner. And just it's just been a gift to sit here with you today and share, because there's so much going on, and giving it space to be spoken. You know, there's things that come through even in conversation today. It's like it feeds me too. And I wanted to share that because your voice helps me to heal, you know, and to grow and to learn and explore things. So thank you for that reflection and for your time. And hopefully we'll see you back again soon.
Mwah. Thank you. I love you, and see you soon.
Love you too.